Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight. We're just going to give it another minute or two to allow folks to get into the Zoom room, and then we'll get started. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Excited about our special guest this evening. For those who don't know, my name is Marcus Schweitzer. I'm the Executive Director of our Win the Era effort. Thank you again, everybody, with our always joining on our weekly or regular supporter calls with our endorsed candidates. So excited about tonight. But without further ado, I'll kick it over to you, Mayor, to talk about our special guest.
All right, thanks, Marcus. Thanks for everybody who's joining us tonight. I'm really excited for this conversation, and I think you're going to love getting to know Mayor Michelle Del-Isla if you haven't already. She is exactly what we had in mind when we were setting up the Win the Era PAC to meet the moment. Just before I introduce her and get into that, I want to comment just a little bit on the news this week. We have been experiencing so many challenges and even pressures on our optimism, but also some extraordinary news that's happened when it comes to the expansion of rights and protections in this country. Even a largely conservative Supreme Court held that under the Civil Rights Act, discrimination against LGBTQ Americans is illegal and wrong. And it was an extraordinary moment that I think allowed so many Americans to breathe a sigh of relief. It doesn't mean our work is done, not by a long shot, any more than marriage equality was the end of the story for the struggle for LGBTQ equality. We continue to see some areas that are not covered by the Civil Rights Act that point to why we need an Equality Act. We continue to see conversion therapy harming young people in this country. We continue to see an epidemic of violence against Black trans women. So we know that the work continues, but it was very good news. And then the extraordinary news that DACA protections are upheld by the Supreme Court. In fact, earlier today, we had a chance to organize a quick Instagram Live with Selena, who some of you may have got to know, a dreamer who I met while visiting the University of Houston downtown, a minority serving institution in Texas, someone who she's a great American, but because she was brought here at the age of 2 months old, does not have the benefits of being a citizen and lives with that uncertainty. And she has completed her degree since we met her on the campaign trail, is now earning her master's. And it was wonderful being able to talk with her about what this decision means. Again, doesn't mean we've gotten everywhere that we need to go, not by a long shot, especially knowing that so many still live with that uncertainty until we have real immigration reform and a path to citizenship. But still such good news. At the same time, we had shocking news from the White House, news that a military promotion may have been held up because the lieutenant colonel had dared to speak the truth to Congress about wrongdoing in the White House, and even accusations by the former national security advisor to President Trump that he had openly solicited Chinese support for his reelection, which is one of many reasons why change can't come soon enough. So that's why I passionately believe that our country is going to be so much better off after this election, if and when we deliver, especially making sure that we have the right kind of leaders in the U.S. House who are going to not just hold and add to our Democratic majority, but lead with the right mindset and the right mentality and the right touch. And that's why I'm so proud to support the mayor and asking you to join me in doing the same. I first got to know her at what one of my fellow mayors likes to call rookie school, a brief conference that is organized for the benefit of new mayors that is pretty much the closest thing you get to a training before you get thrown into the deep end for those who are fortunate enough to attend. And immediately she stood out as a mayor with an extraordinary personal story, the first single mother and first Latina elected mayor of Topeka, Kansas, somebody who ran for all of the right reasons and has moved in so many ways to bring her community together. Needless to say, I feel a certain kinship with forward-thinking, newer generation, red state Democratic mayors. And she has exemplified why, in my view, we need more mayors in charge of more things. And so even though I'm not sure that it's, in terms of quality of life, a benefit to trade the very difficult work of being mayor for the very difficult work of being a member of Congress, I do know that the whole country will be better off when she is representing her Kansas district in the U.S. House, because she has the mindset, the mentality, the intellect, the skills, and also comes from a part of the country where, in order to get anything done, you got to learn how to talk and reach across the aisle. And she has an ability to do that that reminds me of some of the best moments of our own campaign in places like those Iowa counties that had famously alternated between supporting Barack Obama and Donald Trump. So when we were setting out to choose our endorsements for Win the Era, she very quickly rose very high on the list, because she embodies so many of those qualities, from our values around the rules of the road to the style of politician that I think is going to make a huge difference in the future. And no sense in me continuing to talk about her when you can hear from her directly. So let me introduce to you someone I'm so proud to support, and hope you will too, the next member of Congress from Kansas, Michelle De La Isa.
Hello, everybody. It is so great to be here. Mayor Pete, thank you so much. It is so great to be here with you today, and so grateful that in typical Pete fashion, you decided to say, okay, so we're going to do something to keep supporting people, and you've established the Win the Era PAC. I just so grateful for your leadership and just to be here tonight.
Wonderful. Well, in order to, I think the best way to get to know you is to field some of the questions that our supporters have sent through. And I know we've got a short window of time here, but I'm looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts on a lot of these questions. Let me start with one from Sophia in Kansas. Not sure if she's in the district, but she's from your state. And her question for you, Mayor, is what issue are you most excited to tackle as your first when you get to Congress?
First and foremost, the most important issue is the issue of the people. And I have heard over and over again how they are concerned about their health care. It is sad that in the richest country in the world, we are still not providing adequate health care to our residents in this great nation. And we need to make sure that those dollars that are available right now at the federal level for states to be able to participate as part of the Medicaid expansion program are still there, even though we have 3 lawsuits trying to disband nationwide the Affordable Health Care Act that has provided so much benefit to individuals all across the nation. The other thing that I'm also very passionate about is ensuring that prescription medications is something that we can negotiate. That we cannot negotiate the cost right now. That is currently a bill that is residing on Senator McConnell's desk. And we need to make sure that we make prescription medications affordable as well. And when we talk about healthcare, I want to make sure that I make the clear distinction that healthcare also includes mental health. The way that you have access to mental health through the healthcare system is completely different, and it shouldn't be. If you're not healthy of physical and emotional, you're not able to function right and be the best that you can be. So that is my #1 thing that I am going to go there and tackle.
It's such a great point. You know, on the campaign trail, over and over again, we heard about mental health. I thought it was the issue where there's the biggest gap between how much it got talked about in the coverage and how much it mattered to the people I asked about. I didn't go to a community where somebody didn't have it on their mind. It affects us all. Touching on the news of day a little bit, Olga in Arizona says, "I'm a proud immigrant and naturalized U.S. citizen. My heart is with DACA and all immigrants, documented or not, who are the backbone of our country. What does today's SCOTUS decision on DACA mean to you, and how do we practically achieve immigration reform in this political climate?"
So it means to me that we have more work to do, because our DACA brothers and sisters know nothing else other than this country. And it is completely unfair that still they are concerned about their safety in their home. They don't know anywhere else. And I think that we must continue working to ensure that there are availabilities of worker programs. I mean, when I have been talking across my district with farmers, they're telling me that they're having a very hard time finding local individuals to work in their farms. However, when they're able to bring people through the farmer's visa, the farming visa availability, the workers visa, the H1, I think is A's, they're able to get great individuals that are here and willing to work. And this whole narrative of the fact that individuals that are coming in from Mexico or from other countries are here to just take is so false. This is not an and or kind of situation. We are able to all come together and help individuals that are trying to make a better life for their family find a way other than figuring out who they're going to marry to become residents and be documented as they're here in this country. There's a lot of work to do in immigration reform, and I would hope that this is why it's so important not only to bring me onto Congress, but to ensure that we have other individuals in Congress and in the Senate, which is why I'm so grateful for the Wendy Era PAC, so that we're actually able to come together and bring about reform in immigration so that people like our DACA brothers and sisters can finally find a pathway to citizenship.
Exactly right. So much depends on having the right leadership in Washington. You know, when I took office as mayor, I asked former Congressman Ron Mazzoli to swear me in. I had met him. He was a fellow up at Harvard too, a wonderful person. We joked that we were classmates because he and I graduated together when he came back as a mid-career student, years after retiring there. But that was 50 years to the day after he graduated from Notre Dame. But I mentioned his name because his name is on the last comprehensive immigration reform bill. He co-chaired the committee at the time, and that was in the mid-1980s. So that was the last time that we had real action. In the last 15 years, the House passed and it died in the Senate. The Senate passed it and it died in the House. We've got to do it this time, and I know that you and your colleagues will be making that happen. Angie's in Wisconsin. She says, this is a question very, very close to my heart. She says, the events of this year have made it clear that mayors are more important than ever. As mayors, what were or are some of your biggest challenges, and how do you see mayoral challenges evolving as we move forward with COVID-19?
So I think that mayoral challenges right now is the fact that we are having to deal with so many different messages, and there is so much division. So like, for example, I'll give you an example. You talked about the current events of the time. Even with COVID, we as mayors are working very hard to rely on the data and provide information to our constituents that is accurate and letting people know how to really protect themselves. And I find it incredible that right now a virus has been politicized. So as a mayor, you have the face-to-face contact with your constituent after they have been sitting down watching national news. Tell them something completely different than what you're trying to convey to them, even with the data. So I think that one of the biggest challenges that we have is that disconnect of being able to compete right now and generate trust. Trust in government has eroded. And the last few years have not helped our condition. And even though mayors, by and far, are still considered, and the local branches are still considered the branches that people trust in the most, with so much information coming at us right now, it is very hard for us to continue building that solidarity and ensuring that we're able to move people in the same direction when we have so many competing messages.
That's exactly right. You know, and even more difficult when you've got the president and the governor and the mayor on completely different pages, which I know in many states is the case. That idea of trust, I think, is so central right now. Trust in just the ability to trust our institutions. And if we could take the same level of trust we have in local government and in mayors and import that a little bit to the federal level, we'd be better off. Certainly, to answer Angie's question, you know, the big challenge for me as mayor was to make sure that as we were expanding prosperity and growing our city, that it reached everyone. And we continued to see tremendous inequality, a racial wealth gap and a racial income gap. We were able to make a difference, but we had such a long way to go. And America, and certainly communities like mine, have so much unfinished business in order to make sure that racial and economic equality truly happens. Edgar's in Illinois. He says, this week we fell upon a landmark Supreme Court decision, but unfortunately there is still much work to be done in regards to equality for LGBTQ plus Americans, as we were talking about earlier. What actions do you suggest Americans take to ensure the only path forward is progress toward equality for all Americans, no matter their gender or sexual orientation?
You know, I've talked about this often in the sense that when I get questions like this, like my heart just jumps. I have a LGBTQ plus daughter. So for me, the rights of my LGBTQ brothers and sisters and child is extremely important. But here's what I want to remind all of us. Here's where your vote is so important. It matters because I'm just one person. And when we make it to Congress, I'm going to be one of 435. And just the same way that we had the Emancipation Proclamation, we changed the policy, but we didn't change the hearts. And I think that it's time for our country, for each and every one of us, to take responsibility on how we are going to be able to have crucial conversations with our neighbors and with individuals to help them come and understand the inequalities that people may not see that our brothers and sisters are struggling with. So now when I get to Washington, well, I absolutely advocate for things to move forward in the sense that now we have security for employment, but we also need it for housing, and not only in housing, but in freedom of being able to adopt. Because our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters are being discriminated against that. That there is absolutely more availability for them to be able to have access to the same benefits that we all have because they're human just like us. Absolutely, but I think that the work has to be a little bit deeper, and it's going to take all of us being able to have some really challenging conversations, because we can't change the laws, but the policy only is going to go so far. We must ensure that we start having conversations so the hearts start changing and understanding why it's not right to discriminate.
Well said. I mean, policy is so important, but there's a different level of leadership. And I think, a mayor earns her paycheck most of all when calling people to their highest values. And I think the same is true for a member of Congress, too. Okay, Jeremy in Indiana has a question. He's posing it to both of us, so I'll invite you to start. He says, how do you suggest folks stay politically engaged while also staying safe from COVID-19?
It is extremely important that we have the ability to, first of all, to exercise our right to vote. And I think that in order for us to do that, I am really imploring Congress and the Senate to ensure that there is dollars available so that anybody that wants to choose to stay safe and at home is able to vote from home. It is important that we safeguard our post offices because it's so critical right now where we have so many people dying. Look, today in one of my classes, I just saw that we're at 117,000 deaths in our country. That's unacceptable in the sense that we cannot expect for people to exercise their right and tell them, hey, we have all of these people, 700 persons a day dying. Yeah, I still want you to exercise your vote only if you go out and you put yourself in danger. Now, for those individuals who are younger that don't have any complications and still want to go out and do it, that's fine. But we need to ensure that our most vulnerable population is able to do it and that we afford them that right. The other thing is that, hey, for all of you who are watching right now, my race is not going to be the only one that you're going to want to get involved with, right? So for the young individuals that are out there, I'm going to encourage all of you to make sure that you make use of your social media savvy. Make sure that you amplify the voices of the people that you believe in. In addition to that, engage. You can make phone calls. We're going to have to really transform the way that we reach out to people, and just connect with a campaign that you're passionate about, because then that way you figure out how they are adapting to these challenges and you're able to be an ally in this process, because we're going to need everybody to engage. All of us need to be engaged in this one.
Well said. And of course, we're doing it now, right? We're finding a way to come together. It's got to be virtual, but in some ways that means more people can be part of this than if we were confined to one geography. So whenever I hear that question, to me, the answer is always, that you're part of the answer. Right? Anybody who cares about getting great candidates elected. I mean, you can see the mayor's doing the work, right? She's doing what candidates do. She's making the calls. She's weighing in on the policies. She's forming the connections. She's raising the funds. She's doing her part. All of us need to figure out how to do what we do as campaign supporters when we can't do it in the old-fashioned way. And that's everything from, as she said, using social media to gatherings like this, to making sure that we spread the word, and increasingly really interesting ways of doing volunteering, phone banks, and other things that are virtual too, that I think are really powerful and could open up innovations in campaigning that will stay with us long after this pandemic doesn't. So great question there from Jeremy. Colin in California has a question about democratic reform. He says, what are the best means of getting democratic reform on the Democratic agenda? And this is definitely a big one for me. I believed in the course of our campaign in everything from bipartisan measures to reduce the politicization of the Supreme Court. In fact, I found myself in a little back and forth on Twitter with conservative senator on this subject today. But also just making sure everybody's able, as we just talked about, to vote. Making sure there can't be voter suppression. Making sure that also, some people in America don't have full political representation. DC, Puerto Rico don't have the political representation that would, I think, in some cases lead to different decisions. So there's so much we've got to do around our democracy itself. And of course, this is one of the first things that the House of Representatives, this Congress, acted on in this session with H.R. 1, a pro-democracy, anti-corruption bill that, like so many other good bills in the House, went to Mitch McConnell's Senate and died there. But I think we can keep this, we need to keep this high on the agenda of our party, because it may not always be the most sexy issue, structure and process, but we're seeing why it's so very important. So that's my take, but these things will definitely hit your desk in Congress. So Mayor, I'd love to know how you think about democratic reform and how to keep it alive and boost those issues.
So you just mentioned one of the bills that I'm extremely passionate about, which is H.R. 1. It's, we have to make sure that for me, I was recently endorsed as well by ECU. I will not take any corporate dollars because I really believe that every single person should be able to be a participant in the democracy, whether it be by giving $1 or whether it be by giving the available amount that they can give. And it shouldn't be that corporations should have more power in helping a candidate pass their voice on because of accepting those funds. I agree 100% with everything that Mayor Pete just shared, just ensuring that there is no more voter suppression. We cannot continue. I mean, right now, we just talked about the importance of ensuring that everybody has access to a mail ballot should they need it. A form of voter suppression is ensuring that people who are scared to go out are not able to. We cannot continue allowing this to happen. And once I get to Congress, these are some of the issues that I'm really going to be passionate about and advocating for. Most importantly, when you get to Congress, you have to figure out who are your allies so that that voice is able to be amplified and you're actually able to get things done.
Well said. I know we're coming up against our time limit. One question came in from Leslie in Connecticut. What do you think of Senator Tom Cotton's suggestion that Iowans would be upset over the recent Supreme Court decisions on DACA and LGBTQ plus employment rights? And I've got a lot of differences of opinion with Senator Cotton, but in addition to that specific question, also curious how you think about what we can best do, knowing that the Senate is also in play, but we need to find vocabularies to move some of these states that really could go either way and make sure that they're in our column. So I'll kind of broaden the question out a little bit, but love to know, Mayor, how you think about that.
So I'm not in the business of trying to figure out what somebody is saying. So I'm going to try to be very diplomatic on that one. But here's what I will say. I think that Mayor Pete just talked about the importance of us. We do have a chance this year to make a big difference in the Senate. And if we're going to be able to protect our DACA brothers and sisters, we have to understand that even though right now, the likelihood with the lack of time that the current team in charge has to bring back to the Supreme Court these issues is more than likely not to happen because everybody's too busy campaigning. Guess what? If we lose the opportunity to elect President Biden, if we lose the opportunity to elect more Democrats onto the Senate, and it doesn't even have to be Democrats, it has to be people who actually have the right values and care about people, guess what's going to happen? These things are going to come back. And because we have not depoliticized the Supreme Court selection process, guess what's going to happen? More than likely, we're going to lose our opportunity the next time that it comes around. This election is extremely important. And we have to make sure that we're engaged at every level in every state that we can make a big difference and swing a seat.
Absolutely. All right. So hopefully everybody watching understands why I'm so enthusiastic about making sure that the mayor wins her election. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be one of those really close elections that the whole country is watching, which is one of the reasons why there's a lot of national Republican funding going into this race and a lot of our allies, like Win the Era PAC, lining up side by side. Now, I should say that in order to compete, there are also a lot of different groups that they are looking at how well we're going to do to raise funds for her by the end of this month. And it's one of the reasons why it's so important that we all do what we can. So I think I've seen some people in the chat already go ahead and put the link up, but if anybody wants to throw it up one more time, but I'll let the mayor, I'll let you speak yourself. What are the biggest things? What's the website, and what are the biggest things we can do to make sure that you win this election?
So first and foremost, Mayor Pete, thank you for allowing me this platform and just your support. It just means so much to me and to my family, and you know that. So just for everybody that's out there, please get engaged. If you're interested, follow me on Twitter, Michelle for Kansas. Follow us on Facebook, Michelle for Kansas, and follow me on my website, Michelle for Kansas. It's super simple because, of course, De La Isla, very much like Buttigieg, is kind of hard to follow. So please go there. If you are able to give, please, this is the hardest part for me because I am not a person that has moved my finances. So it's been extremely difficult for me to work so hard. And what I'm reminded of every day is that every dollar that comes to the campaign is not so much a dollar for Michelle. It's a dollar to help us reach every single one of our constituents in 25 counties across Kansas. So we're going to need your help to get our voices heard, because remember, we are running against President Trump's re-election chair, which means that he's going to have significant national support. And I am so grateful to have Mayor Pete on my corner. Like he tells me on a regular basis, I'm on your corner. I never forget that. But I need all of you to be on my corner. Amplify our voice. Give. If you liked what I have to say, support and encourage others to do so. But most importantly, wherever you're at, engage others to vote. It's important that you do that. Engage others to vote so that we can make sure that not just here in Kansas, but across the nation, we're able to see individuals that are following the values of the Wendy Era path of honesty, humility, and really competence, being able to represent all of you all across our great nation. Thank you so much.
All right, you heard it. Well said. Amplify that voice on social media. Make sure people know about her race. Send money if you can through the website by the end of this month if you can, because that'll make a big difference. And make sure that we reach every possible voter with a message of the kind of leadership that we could have if Mayor De La Isla is elected to Congress. I know you've got so much going on. You're working so hard as a candidate and as a mayor. So we'll return you to your evening. But thanks for stepping up. We're so proud to have to be at your side. This community has your back. We are in your corner. I'm proud to be there, and say hello to your wonderful daughters as well too. For all.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
All right, keep it up. Great seeing you.
Bye.